Our next speaker for today, we have Santanoo Bhattacharjee, Solutions Expert, Architect, Advanced Tech Solutions from Accenture. Santanoo, a techie by choice and evolutionist by passion, a seasoned technology solutions expert bringing over a decade of experience in ideating, crafting, and managing transformation and operations of public, managed, hybrid cloud implementations, greenfield DevOps solutions, and driving excellence within digital transformational solutions. Having delivered numerous seminars, corporate workshops to engineering leaders around the globe, he is part of transformational think tank groups, elevating the perception of driving digital transformation ground up. He is a frequent speaker on various summits and enjoys interacting with change agents, driving organic transformations within organizations. He is also a DevOps Institute ambassador and chapter lead for India. His topic for today is DevOps. Hello, AIOps.
Hello, everyone. Indeed, a pleasure to be here today at the DevOps India Summit. Once again, I'm thankful to the team Accenture for hosting such a wonderful event and inviting us to connect with you all. Who am I? I'm Santanoo Bhattacharjee, and I operate as a subject matter expert and architect for Accenture's Advanced Technology Centers. I'm also a DevOps Institute ambassador, and I'm the chapter lead for their India chapter. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can discuss a lot of things there. So last year, my content was more into DevSecOps and the emergence of security aspect within it. So as a circle of evolution, we see and we have seen the way DevOps as a practice has evolved and culturally how it is growing year after year. So this year, my theme of discussion is aligned with the evolution and with the same evolution that it is going through in 2021. So I'll be scoping this whole discussion into the evolution of ops. We will see how it's time right now to embrace a wonderful friend, our DevOps, as a culture needed from a very long time, AIOps. Well, let's go through this journey. So before we begin, let's scope the whole evolution that we can summarize. So by comprehensively collating these matrices from few leading surveys, the state of the art, DevOps reports and everything that we get and we consume actively in our whole strategical reports every day. So the key ones which stand out as the levers to set the tone for what is needed are these four: the deploy frequency, the lead time, MTTRs, and the fail rate of changes. So let's assume that we take a company A. That's just a random sample. And we see that this company A have reduced and they have improved on what they were sitting on with this implementation of the processes and the culture that DevOps brought into them. So now what we have also started noticing after this implementation is there are a few operational vacuums that the teams are actively seeing. Anomaly detection, inconsistency in the root cause analysis documents, or maybe the ways they do it, remediation models, the manual toils, and most importantly, the capacity optimization matrices. So what we see is that these numbers or these factors are growing in every time we walk towards this whole evolution. So now when we talk of this evolution at this day, everything decentralizing, decomposition of the apps, the scale of the volume that these applications are bringing in terms of logs and matrices, and whatever we can measure is enormously increasing. So the guardrails and the practices, the processes that we have put in place to rectify this and course correct it or help us to diagnose it, it's not helping. We needed something better, some more help. So this outline of the whole presentation that we are going to have in the next 25 to 30 minutes will be, number one, in DevOps, how this whole ops evolution has come to place and where exactly is it falling short. And when it falls short, how exactly a friend that it needed from a very long time, AIOps, helps them as an enabler. So the adoption of AIOps and helping in evolving what DevOps is today is something that we'll be walking through stage by stage, and why slowly it is becoming a must-have for everybody. So let's get started. Okay, So now, if we see this whole timeline, and I've just kept it as a representational timeline. So when we retrospect on what we call today as the digital transformation in DevOps, that we see that it has arrived through a series of evolution. So firstly, from manual ops to eventually into procedural ops. So the documentation of SOPs, the standard checklists, the scoped tooling, and everything that we had. It was all structured before when we were evolving from manual to procedural. But after that, with the scale and the introduction of new technologies and processes, we entered into a stage of automatic ops, the stage or maybe the evolution into more of automations and all. We started scoping use cases, leveraging the power of modern tools and whatnot. This is the stage most of us were in when we started our career. But now, at this point, what we started to observe and realize that apart from the functional and technical grooming of all the issues that we had, in order to properly manage this acceleration of delivery and development, we needed to evolve the cultural element, the outlook of people towards it. And that's where we entered into the golden era of doing development and doing delivery models like continuous delivery and all through DevOps. So this is all evolutionary. We started managing faster iterations. Now the complex decomposition of architectures were done properly and systematically. The accelerated techniques to deliver with speed, along with this agile models, were done with proper quality. So we were getting into a stage that was looking good. But what we all know that with this whole development of processes and architectures, we somehow have started subtly kind of inheriting the complexities that this all brings. And it has become a monumental challenge for ops management. What's actually we see on the ground today is that all these loosely coupled applications, tools and all is helping us with enormous amount of data, enormous amount of matrices, logs, all this, API economy and all is bringing us more and more complexities into the way we as ops engineers manage. Now, how exactly this digital transformation flow is going to help us in managing it? So we know that this whole flow, it has evolved in architecture, the workflows, that all these points that you see. Now, in a way, what we have to understand is this introduction of architectural complexity or data consistency, logging overhead. This is all giving us a key highlight. The key point that typically we all think and we do not quote a lot is when your apps and services somehow malfunction. You go through some problems in your applications and services, you lose customers' trust, and your revenue is bound to drop. When your IT team mainly focuses on fixing emergencies, agility will suffer and the innovation will eventually shrink. So when you have a problem and when you know the solutions that you're trying it with is not going to help you, you should not scale those non-manageable practices any point in time because of the apprehension of a few. With technology, you have to start believing in it and you have to start creating a recipe for change, not a recipe for disaster. Secondly, is you need to evolve into a seamless operations model in order to compete and thrive in the market we are right now in. IT is no longer a enabler. It's the business, if I may put it that way. So the bottom line is you need to free up people to focus on mission critical applications and mission critical tasks, to identify and describe the toil that they actually want to work on, and empower them to build better services for better customer experiences. So now that we have understood that this whole is the reality, and this is the choke point for which DevOps is falling a little short in order to achieve the desired outcome, let's explore the how element, what exactly we need to plan in the next milestone. This is the introduction of a companion our operations or ops evolution with DevOps was seeking at this stage, AIOps. As the name suffices, got most of the quality it has, the quality of being smart on its own. Well, with some assistance, of course. How to make this companionship that everyone can brag about to have it or knowing about it is what we are going to walk through now. So now if you see the main blocks in blue, the tool chains, the workflows, the data flow models, the connectors, the observability constructs, all these capability. What we have done is with the evolution of DevOps as a practice and as a culture and its pull up with tooling and a lot of automation capability, we have started decomplexing the whole IT ops. Now, with this model in place, what we have done is that we have introduced a lot of volume. So that is all subtle. The volume, the velocity, and varieties of anomalies or deadlocks or matrices, all these data sets that we are speaking of, we have slowly introduced. But this whole circle of change was missing one key quadrant, and that was the value. So even though we are having a volume and velocity and variety of data that could help us, we were not able to figure out how can we derive the value of it. With AIOps, what we will do is answer these questions. Are we deriving the value that we seek? So the whole contextualization or the correlation models, the capabilities, point of failures, deadlocks that we understand, but we do not, or we could not come to a conclusive evidence of locking it once and for all. That we can start answering. Now, in this 3V model that you have seen, what we help and the way we kind of take help from AIOps on this is going through the OEA model we all know about. So if we have read a few white papers or how this DevOps model should evolve in time, the OEA model, which we talk about, is observe, engage, and act. Now, what O stands for is observe, where we think of monitoring, building up our observability constructs. How are we doing monitoring? How exactly are we doing logging? Is it falling short? Of course it is, and that's the reason you are into a situation to evaluate AIOps. Now, what all factors or what all considerations you have gone through to build this whole observability construct? Start documenting that. In terms of engaging, it's a long and very broader topic to discuss, but the whole ITSM model, the management matrix, the change management models, everything that we have, how are we engaging with what exactly is the info and how to pass it on and circle back? How do we iterate this whole flow? This is something which we can get value from AIOps. And the last is act. The automation capability. This is something ubiquitous to everybody. How are we automating what have we figured out so far? Now, how AIOps is going to help you and how AIOps is going to help your whole DevOps implementation is strengthening this OEM models. How have you done this implementation so far? It's going to give you a construct of the value that you have missed in this implementation. Now, if you just take the generic outline, how AIOps as a capability enhances your ops management flow. It is going to ingest and analyze your data. So it will come, so all these data sources that you have, including your historical data, your real-time data, your log data, network packet data, document text, anything, etc. Anything that you have, it's going to take all these data into the data lakes cluster and all it has, and it's going to start analyzing your data systematically the way you want them to analyze so that you don't have to go through it all the time again and again in same loop. It's going to understand this process and it's going to make its own algorithm to figure out how do you want it to analyze. Based on this, it has a discovery pattern and it continuously evolves. So identifying the patterns in the data streams, all these correlations, and it's going to figure out your future incidents as well. How is this pattern going to correlate and build out an incident in future? It's going to start building up those predictive models. Second is it starts detecting your anomalies as well. So what is a normal behavior and what constitutes to be an abnormal behavior or a deviation? It's going to figure out choke points. It's going to figure out your whole workflow patterns, which can lead to this kind of a trouble. And the best part is it's going to figure out your root cause analysis such a way through this pattern discovery to identify genuine relationships and everything that you need to figure out that particular issue and derive a root cause out of it once and for all. So what we see is that this is the construct we always struggling to have. Now we understand this problem that logs are not going to become smaller, or it's with the way API economy and everything is coming, it's going to be more and more difficult to manage this whole construct that we have just discussed. This enabler is something it's going to ease up the pain of your ops team, the on-ground ops team, and give them the vacuum that they needed to experiment with, the actual use cases. So this is the position that AIOps will have in your whole flow. And moving on from this, the whole model that you see right now in front of you, the adoption of it and evolution. So once to deep dive into this subject and start evaluating, now I believe you are comfortable with this whole process once you go through how exactly it fits in this whole picture of evolution. So once you deep dive into this subject and start evaluating the prospects of AI ops, be it a SaaS, be it a COTS commercially of the shelf, be it a bot or any other solutions that you build it on, the workflow of all of them is based on this outline, the one that you see on the screen. Now, when we see this whole workflow, the first things first is the feeding mechanism. You feed historical data to this AI engine for it to learn about your business, your environments, the current state of how exactly the transactions are happening. Based on this, what you will define is matrices, build dashboards, you build reports for it to be contextually relevant to what exactly you intend to do. Now, this AIOps engine is basically built on machine learning models for pattern discovery, anomaly detection, with all the historical data that you have been sitting on so far. Post this, you connect it with your real data sources engine to build on root cause analysis. So now, once you've fed your data to it and your data have started properly coming from multiple sources, that's when you come to problem number 2, how to clean up the data. Because the data will have a lot of contextualization and it could be duplicate data, it could be relevant data. That data pooling is what we will quantify as data cleansing. So now remember that AI is just an engine, and as good the volume grows, the variety grows, and the velocity of how you punch in data to it, you have to know the fourth V, value. How are you building up value from this data? So ensuring that you have enough good quality data, one of the most important part of implementing your AIOps platform. By rushing into the last phase of getting a data out of it, you can impact its efficacy. So your whole initiative may not justify the purpose that you actually wanted it for. So that cleansing and that pragmatism that you have in your cleansing should consider these 4V models that we just spoke of. It should not be designed for a smaller impact. It is designed for a consistent growth. And the last part is make it smarter slowly. You see this pragmatic structures on the right, the strategy, prepare, select, and build, and evaluate and optimize. So the whole structure is how you're adopting to this tool and the platform. First, have a holistic picture of positioning this AIOps as a capability. Unless and until you figure out how this is becoming friend of your whole ops team in terms of taking out a lot of mundane and repetitive activities and a lot of unprecedented things that could happen to your platform, it's not basically going to help you in any way if you do not position it to be a part of your team. So that holistic picturization of this as a capability should be there in the first place. Now, second is enhance this implementation gradually. Gradually let it grow with your data. Structurally introduce more and more complex scenarios. Let the systems normalize the scope. This whole conditional evolution that you are going to make through with this platform, let that be use case by use case, scenario by scenario. Do not punch in a lot of complex data at the initial level, because it's just going to make it not derive the actual matrix that it needs to calculate the holistic approach for any possible cost that it may have. So do it use case by use case and involve complex scenarios at a mature stage. Third is enhance your team. Somehow enable them to let off go this firefighting models. Make them believe that this capability is smart enough to take the calls. It has to be perceived in a way that it can take shots on its own. You will have your firefighting team ready for a catastrophe if needed. But if you educate this whole model and make it smarter enough, I don't think you will ever need that, at least for a major stage for a lot of time. And the fourth part, which again I'll reiterate, is gradually introduce variance. Now let's take a simple use case. If you implement a scenario where it learns to figure out that through your data there were 8 to 9 scenarios which could result to this outage, it's not gonna lock, because those 8 to 9 inputs will be somehow resonating to what you've already figured out. But what it's going to do, it's going to build up a correlation slowly, and it's going to figure out that there are more ways which you have not seen, or maybe you have not yet encountered. And that is the variance time it needs it needs to figure out what else could happen, which you have not faced so far. So the mine of data pools that you are gonna give it to study on, or your algorithms that is gonna read these data, needs time to grow, needs more variance to experiment on. So this whole AISS model, this adaptability, interoperability, suitability, and scalability that you do, it has to have a timeline to it. How you want to make your AIOps should not have it, I'll say, management timeline very strict on it. It should have an evolving timeline. How are these use cases growing will be something that you'll be kind of wondering when you see it behaving in a way that you have not thought it will help you with. And this whole process of implementation, again, has to be done through scenarios, the game plans, a lot of I'll say virtual dojo models, or maybe simulated use case. These all the models of chaos engineering, pools that we see. So a lot of these practices that we implement has to be time tested. So once you give it enough time to study and figure out more and more about the kind of causes it can encounter, or it can handle on its own, it's time to test it before it's actually done productive. So if it goes into a productive uses where maybe some of the resolutions is not what you expect it to have, it's always better to time test it. So that's why I will reiterate this point: make it smarter but slowly. You should have a timeline to it, and this is how, by adopting this whole outline. Now I'll say there are a lot of leading SaaS products in the market, or COTS product in the market, which will promise a lot of add-on features to what you see. So the concerns that you see in the presentation, how exactly your teams are experiencing those, is it at par with how your CI/CD models are in place, and how it's going to help this whole implementation of your capability. These all will be a point of key, I'll say, bragging factor. You have to figure out one thing, is that tools promises a lot. So and organizations are very good at it. But when you think about this implementation, you have to structurally think what tool is going to help you in terms of getting the backlog that you have moved away from your transformation journey. How it is going to be an enabler to you is something you have to evaluate and introspect on your own. This model is going to be the whole skeleton. But if you are clear that you need the SaaS model, or maybe this off-the-shelf solution, or maybe some in-house build model of this whole capability, take that conscious call, start positioning that as a capability, start growing eventually on this whole model with more and more use cases, simulations, and at the end, start testing it with what exactly you intended this to have. After that, if you feel confident, go and start using it productively. If not, it's time to re-educate it, because it's just going back to the whole model of teaching. How you educate it is basically how smarter it will ever become. So if you are seeing that it's not exactly giving you the outcome, it's time for you to rethink your use cases and maybe educate it in a better way. One thing that you can be assured about is that this capability is here to help you, and it has got all it needs. How you make use of this capability is something structurally, plan-wise defined by you, and you have to evolve it as well. Moving on from this, now this is the point which you all know, the major challenges that we have in IT and growing in IT, how operations team nowadays are cataloging these boxes. Reactive models of management, number one. Two is RCAs that are deriving these SOPs. Third is the SLA management workflows and matrices. And fourth is this capacity management and optimization. Now, these are the four buckets which we always have a problem with. How AIOps is going to address you, and that's what we saw in the first slide as well. In the first point, reactive models of management. What it is going to do is make your reactive into predictive. So the first and foremost change that AIOps will bring to your enterprise is to make your ITSM much more predictive. So instead of being reactive, or I'll say, as opposed to what we see in the current processes, it's all driven by rules, MTTRs. AIOps will proactively monitor. It will identify potential breakages in the system, suggest measures to prevent them from happening. And as a result, your customer will kind of experience less disruptions slowly. And maybe you will go to a stage where they will completely be least bothered about any outages that can happen because it has addressed everything before time. Second is SMA driven to machine driven. Now, this is one very debatable topic. Is right now anything that we see as an outage or anything that we see as a business stopper, it's more of a SMA driven practice. We have got people who have deep years of experience into this process. They are obviously much more needed in building a state of the art system for future rather than firefighting what they've already built. What they have to do is make this whole scenario much more of a machine driven process. With AIOps, all these L1 tickets or service request outages can be easily handled. All these false positives, noise that the platform team gets, they can be handled with speed and with accuracy. The platform can be managed, somehow with all this. Most of the, if I just deviate one bit, most of this outages that we see, or maybe the kind of business disruptions that we see with the applications, they are maintenance tasks not properly notified or not properly managed. So what AIOps platform will do is that they will have preventive maintenance tasks and they will notify SMEs in case of any intervention if needed, but they will be able to handle it on their own properly and timely. Now, SMEs will be relieved from all this repetitive task and will have much more time to focus on complex business challenges and unique customer cases. So this is how your customer will have quick resolution to common incidents and will kind of get more personalized experience for complex issues. Third is your service level assurance. So that will obviously increase. Now, leveraging automation and making all this ticketing solutions more automatic will help your team, your implementation, resolve all these incidents much more efficiently and faster. Predictive maintenance will eliminate most of the issues, including unscheduled downtime, unplanned outages. Root cause analysis will eliminate all this duplication of events, all this noises and false positives. And believe me, coming from a platform angle myself, I know 70 to 80%, or I'll say close to 85% of all the disasters I've seen so far were just a minor mistake that somebody made, not major ones. These kind of platform will help you be better prepared for these kind of situations because they must have factored in through their continuous migration of your data, and they will figure out how exactly the potential causes could be from the patterns that they are seeing in the current way of your whole applications running. Overall, the complaints will reduce and the quality of every resolution that you give will improvise. One thing just to highlight, and that's just a point I got while I was talking on this, is I've seen a lot of, so we have a vendor model engagement where a lot of enterprises support plans that we carry forward with commit for every issue that has been reported to them, that this is the final fix and this is something is gonna be the root cause, and they have analyzed it and this is not going to reoccur. But believe me, within just a period of 7 to 10 days, if you're unlucky, and if you're lucky maybe in a month, you will see that problem again if your business is using that application. Now when you go back to them, imagine their situation of seeing the same problem, and with the commitment that they had given in the past, they had to make this whole assumption of not seeing the problem before, and maybe giving you some other structure or other point to justify that this is not what they have experienced, and it has been caused because of something else. What I'll say is this platform will give you much better visibility, as well as to them much better confidence to answer when they say that this is the root cause and this has been mitigated forever. Based on that, they will be much more confident in giving RCAs. I've seen teams a bit reluctant to give RCAs because they know that this is not the actual RCA it should have. This will help in building that kind of a service assurance. And the last is optimization. Now this is the part where I'm right now working on. I'll be very honest and brutally honest, it's a tremendous commitment in terms of optimizing your existing architecture. When you talk about optimization, how can you take those systems, those capabilities like computes and all, one by one, without considering all the angles which could lead to an impact? Now you need data, and no matter how much data you have, if you do not have a discovery pattern on your head that this is how you are going to discover and avoid repeating the same issue because of your whole design, it could lead to an issue. That is a very, very difficult call to make. This platform is going to help you reduce that error and give you that confidence that whatever implementation or decision you are taking for optimizing your state or optimizing the architectural platform that you are working on, it's gonna make you better in terms of taking that call and being more confident with the leadership. And eventually it is gonna increase the productivity and efficiency of your whole platform as well. With all these practices in place, our infrastructure is gonna be much more better, much more reliable, and much, I'll say, advanced to grow along with the application development cycles that we see. Having said that, this is, I believe, I've implemented this for more than almost 1.5 years in my team. It's January 2020 where we started rolling it out, and we are reaping out good benefits today. I still cannot say that this is helping me in every way, but I'll say that this whole approach to adopt AIOps has helped our team reduce a lot of extra work that they had to do. A lot of good resources have got opportunities to work on something better. And in a way, we have a better CSAT what we are sitting on right now. So this is here for you. This capability is here for DevOps to grow more, and maybe next year when we connect again, I can give you some more insight to this. But trust me, this is the capability for DevOps, and it's the friend it was looking in for a very long time. Thank you for having me here with this whole walkthrough. I hope this helped you to get a better insight of how we position these as best friends in this whole evolution. Feel free to drop me your thoughts on this, and happy to discuss this again. Good day ahead with this whole summit, and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.